special joint meeting of January 30th, 2025 to order.
Good evening. I call the January 30th, 2025 special joint meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners with the Monroe City Council to order.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, we want to welcome you today. Thank you for your time tonight. County Manager, attorney, staff, we look forward to this opportunity to speak with you guys.
I would like to recognize our County Manager, Brian Matthews, for initial comments from Union County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This works. There we go. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, the board, as well as your staff, for the opportunity to come and meet with you. This really sort of came about as some discussions with the county and the city about our current arrangements for water and sewer. We both have sort of mirror image agreements. You purchase water from us, we purchase sewer capacity from you. And I realize you guys are in the process of considering an expansion or working on an expansion for your plant. And so conversations have been had with our staff about moving forward. What do we do? How does that work? Are we interested in some additional capacity, and how do we move forward from there? And so that's, I think, what led to this discussion with the two boards. I know that I don't think we've had those discussions board to board. It's just been staff to staff. So it's important for us all to understand what exactly are we going to accomplish and where we go from there. I would to ask Mark if he has any comments or anything he'd like to add to that.
Thank you, Brian. The city of Monroe is in the process of expanding its wastewater treatment facility for an addition of 3 MGD. It's important for us to know if the city would like to purchase some additional treatment capacity, and if so, how much. The city has, I guess it was the last quarter of the calendar year, went through a rate study as part of the beginning of the financing process for that project. So we have completed that. The engineering of that project is well underway and will be complete soon, and then that will be going through the bid process. We have a scheduled meeting with the Local Government Commission at the 1st of February for the introductory round of discussions on the financing of the project. So it becomes important to know if the county would like to purchase additional capacity at the plant. How much is that? That all figures into the financing model. This, quite frankly, that's good for us to know right now, because that does have an impact potentially on rates, etc. So that's where we're at today. We're just we really need to know what the county's interest is in the plant, and how we can move forward with that.
So this current board, as you know, we have 2 brand new board members and a member who was appointed previously and now elected, has not really had an opportunity to discuss this and make a formal decision. I will tell you that the previous board, we had some discussions, and at the staff level, we had recommended that we do seek some additional capacity from the city. Currently, we have a contractual arrangement or an agreement with the city for 2.65 million gallons out of your current wastewater treatment plant. And so we're really like a customer. We'll purchase that capacity if we need it. We pay for capital based on the operation and maintenance of the plant, but we don't pay for expansion. We pay for that particular portion of it. Because the city is looking at expanding your capacity, I think from a staff perspective, we would be interested in some additional capacity for our east side sewer. This is what this serves. We obviously need our board to give us authorization that, yes, we want to go ahead and do that, that we want to purchase that. But I will tell you, from the staff perspective, we think that is something that we would want to have as far as additional capacity for the east side. One of our biggest questions, though, is what does that do with the current plant and the current operation of the plant? Because of course we have an arrangement on the current plant. So I would be curious to know, is it your intent to operate the current plant basically permanently or in perpetuity, or however you intend on operating the current plant? That would be a question I would have.
I don't hear anybody speaking up.
And you may not be
No,
prepared to answer
so the current plant, we do intend to operate the current plant for as long as it's useful to and practical to do so.
Okay.
Okay. This is an expansion
Okay.
of the treatment capacity.
Very good.
This treatment capacity, additional treatment capacity, adding a different treatment train does give us the flexibility of some rehabilitation on the current plant to extend the life of that plant, and that is the intention.
Okay, very good. That was a question that I had, and to hear you call it an expansion, I think is number one, that's comfortable for us. That makes us feel better about the way the agreement is structured. I'm not gonna ask the board to give us a decision tonight, and haven't had a chance to discuss that. We do have a retreat coming up February 12th. We can have a further discussion with the board and possibly get some direction on the 12th. I know you need answers, soon, because you're going through your financing and for what you need to do with the LGC. So, again, I will tell you that we will certainly recommend to the board that they consider purchasing some additional capacity from the city out of your expansion. It would be our recommendation that we follow very similarly to what the agreement is that we have. We already have a structure for an agreement in place. I think that works very well. I mean, as far as the amount, obviously we can discuss that, but I like the way the agreement is structured. I think that makes sense. No sense in reinventing the wheel as far as that goes. Any concerns with the structure of the agreement? And if there are, I just need to know so we can have those discussions.
The agreement as it's structured, I think, is fine. There's going to be some things that are going to need to be interpreted. I think if you read it, if you read through it, but the expansion, I think, is pretty clear. It's a negotiated agreement about the expansion. Maintenance and everything like that, there are some terms in there that probably need to be explored.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I have a couple questions. What is your timeline for anticipated completion when this additional capacity will be ready? I'm looking at you, I guess, whoever.
Anticipated construction begin the end of the year, 25, and then 3-year construction timeframe.
3 years. You're asking us how much additional we'd be willing or interested in purchasing. I guess my question would be, kind of reverse that. How much of that capacity do you anticipate the city needing that would be available for us to have a chance at.
The expansion is a 3 MGD expansion, and we're prepared to use all 3 MGD over time. I think historically, there's been an offer, you know, if the county expands something at Catawba and then they offer us additional capacity, you know, the reverse of that is offering the county the opportunity to let us know what capacity needs you may have. It all goes into the planning process. So I don't know what the county's anticipated needs are. Right now you have 2.65 MGD. I think on an average basis, and I'm going to look back here at staff, is it probably in the 1.7, 1.8?
Yes.
So right now you're using about 1.7, 1.8 of the 2.65, so there's a lot of capacity left right there. You know, I know that the town of Marshall is a customer, and they have some agreements with Anson County. If they come offline in the next, I don't know, whenever, 36, 48 months, they're using somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 to 300,000 gallons on an average day. Then that's added, if they go to Anson County with that, then that adds, frees up county capacity at the Monroe plant.
Have we projected out when the county would reach the limit of the current agreement as far as using up that capacity?
Not a projection, because as Manager Watson indicates, we're not sure when Marshville will come offline and that flow will come back to us. We obviously think that we've probably got at least another 10 years worth of capacity if we get back the flow from Marshville. Now, all this is contingent upon the level of economic development and industrial development we're able to accomplish in that Wingate area. And we could use up all of that flow very quickly, depending on how successful we are for that. I will tell you that the number that staff to staff that we indicated was 750,000 gallons. From staff to staff, we said that would be the number we would recommend consider. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the city is looking at a potential larger expansion at some point, maybe in the future. You have the ability to go larger if you need to.
So it's a 3-phase expansion. This is the first phase. And so 3 MGD to start with. Second phase, you know, you're adding another 3 or 4 MGD and then another 3 or 4 MGD to that. And I think with rehabbing the current facility, you know, that's going to mean a long-term sustainable facility at that location. You know, who knows what the future holds, but 3 MGD is a pretty good amount on an expansion.
Do you have a discharge limit for a certain amount on this site already?
We do, and that's a really good question and a very interesting topic. So we have our discharge permit. We are, and I want to use the right words, Scott, but we're currently permitted for a discharge of 10.4, but we can increase that to 15.
Maximum of 15.4.
Maximum of 15.4. So what I've always thought is a very good and practical thing is to go ahead and permit that up to the maximum.
Okay.
Because, and this is just point of information, the city of Charlotte is seeking an IBT from the Catawba Basin into the Rocky River Basin to discharge flow into the Rocky River. That discharge flow enters the Rocky River way up in the corner of Union County at Unionville, Fairview, way up in the corner. All right. So the Rocky River has a load limit, and if that discharge from Mecklenburg County, the city of Charlotte, is entering at the top of the river, and as far as we're concerned, that reduces or creates a situation where, whether it's Union County, or whether it's the city of Monroe, or whether it's potentially Wingate or Marshall, anybody else is discharging into the Yadkin Basin, and it's going into the Rocky River, is probably gonna have a harder time permitting downstream because the load's being put in upstream.
Do you have plans to expand that 15 million gallon discharge permit greater than that?
Not with this phase.
Not with this phase, okay.
Not with this phase. But just be aware, I mean, that is, we have attended the IBT public hearings, and taken a position against that discharge load in the Rocky River. And I would expect that would continue to be our position, because that limits our future. That cuts into our resource.
That is good to know. Absolutely.
Have we taken a position on that?
I'm not sure. Have we taken a position on that?
We've attended the meetings just like the city, but we haven't formulated a position on it yet.
I know that we have had a similar, but this is about withdrawing water from Catawba. You know, we've had some similar concerns from Charlotte withdrawing water from Catawba. He's talking about a discharge. We're obviously concerned about that, and it raised our concerns about that. So we can have further discussions with the board about our position on this discharge in the Rocky River.
I'll just reiterate, so, you know, that discharge, we're fine right now. We're fine up to 15 MGD discharge limit of our permit. But it's beyond that in the future that, you know, I think we need to look down the road and see and think about what's going to be happening.
Any questions
Board, do you have any comments, questions? Commissioner Helms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, thank you to the City of Monroe for hosting us tonight. Yeah, I think that historically we've shared a great agreement, you know, with sewer and also water, and I believe that there's a general willingness to continue that agreement. Obviously, I can't speak for the board, and we're going to have some discussion on that, but it makes a lot of sense because, you know, we have we're currently looking at projects for the Catawba in partnership with Lancaster for expansion there. And so, you know, I appreciate the clarification from Manager Watson regarding the City of Monroe's plans. As I understand it, and I think a lot of our questions have already been answered. So I came into this meeting with several questions, including, you know, whether or not this was going to be an addition or a new facility. So I'm just assuming that the City of Monroe is looking at this addition just to accommodate additional growth, maybe commercial or residential. Is that correct?
No, it has to do with keeping a good functioning facility. So we have an aging facility, and we need to be able to rehab some of those aging concrete structures. And in order to do that, you have to take some offline. Well, we can't take it offline and rehab it if we don't have some means to do that. At the same time, we are looking to the future. Monroe has always invested in its utilities, looking to the future. And that's put us in the position we're in today, having the capacity we have to serve both the residential growth that is already been approved, the number of rooftops, in addition to any of the industrial customers that would move into Monroe. So we have that capacity today. We all know, sitting at these tables, that the absolute longest lead time planning and construction of anything we do in local government is these wastewater treatment plants. And so, you know, you have to look to the future, and you have to look far enough down the road with an eye toward planning for the future. Monroe has Monroe Council has very wisely kept its rates where they need to be in order to afford to set aside monies to pay for some of the expansion. Of course, some of the expansion we'll have to borrow those funds on, but they've done a good job in planning the financials for this.
Thank you. And just another question. So you mentioned a phased rollout, phased expansion. So the first phase would be 3 million gallons per day. As far as the length of time, now obviously that's going to take about 3 years. What's the total? You know, I'm sure that you guys have probably discussed, you know, how long it's going to take you to reach, you know, your maximum there.
I'm gonna turn around here. It's a 15-year expansion total, like all 3 phases.
No, sir.
More than that.
The first phase, Commissioner Hines, will take the capacity to 13.4. The second phase will expand it 6 more million gallons. The final phase, of phase 3 final build out, is 24 MGD.
And how many years do we think? Sorry.
Well,
We expect to, we anticipate to see phase 2 expansion in approximately 10 years, and then phase 3 approximately 20, 25 years out. It's all contingent upon the growth.
that's where you have to keep a finger on the pulse. You know?
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Commissioner Sods?
I guess my question is, what's the price? I assume you modeling the cost of the expansion, and then that will be what we would need to pay for that additional, as Matthew said, proposing $750,000. So that your modeling will give you a benchmark to use for the pricing, and then that's subject to negotiation as far as a contract for that additional capacity, correct?
That's correct. So right now, we're looking in the $110 million range. Could be 115, could be 105, but it's in that $110 million range. You know, then that cost allocates out to a price per gallon, et cetera. We expect to have the construction bids back August the 1st. So we'll know what the numbers are gonna look like at that time. Right now, it's all projection.
You already have the permits for this expansion?
Yes, sir.
I imagine that was a big hurdle.
They were already in place.
Great. Oh. So what would be the process that would propose for whatever capacity we're looking to deal with, and then a discussion of the pricing? How do we move forward with that to see if it is actually something we want to do?
Sure. So typically, the first off, the board would, you know, give staff direction that you are interested in a capacity, whatever that is, an additional capacity. We would then meet staff to staff and really iron out as the attorney said, the sort of the specifics of the agreement, how that works. They would build that into their rate model, that helps them understand the rate impact it's gonna have. And then ultimately that would yield, this is what our annual costs are gonna be. Right now, the way the annual costs work is that we pay for the flow. So even though we have 2.65 million gallons, we don't flow 2.65 million gallons. We pay for the amount of flow that we send. And
You
there's
pay for what you use.
and there's a prescribed formula for how that's calculated. And then we pay a proportionate share of the operation, maintenance, R&R for the facility. So if there's capital projects that have to go with maintaining that facility, we pay a proportionate share for that. And I would anticipate it would be very similar. We would have that same structure for this.
So that is not participating in the cost of the actual expansion, but repair, fix-it cost after it's online.
Yeah,
Whether we're using it or not, we're gonna share in that.
that's the way the current agreement
Okay.
is structured. That's the
Okay.
way that current agreement is structured. And the same thing is true for the water side.
Right. Standard deal.
Right, and if we expand and the city would like to expand, then we can have that discussion about, additional capacity. But they don't pay the cost of the expansion, they only pay their share of the capital or the R&R for those types of things. So it's a very similar agreement as far as that goes. And, I mean, I know we're talking a lot about sewer, but I will say that, the city, if the city is interested in discussing additional water on the Catawba side, we have an IBT that doesn't allow us to sell water from the Yadkin side, but on the Catawba side, we already sell you water. Now, that's based on a grandfathered 1.99 million gallon flow. We would certainly, be happy to discuss with the board and staff to staff if you're interested in some additional flow. It would probably require an IBT from the city to do that. And I'm not saying you want to do that, but that would probably be what it would require if you needed some additional water on the Catawba side. And our board is willing to, offer that as an option for you. Because we do have that arrangement, water and sewer, and it works very well. You guys get something from us, we get something from you.
Has the city discussed that at all? Any additional water needs that we might be able to accommodate as we look for expansion on the Catawba?
The city has not discussed additional capacity coming from the Catawba plant. We do have plans to modify some of our processes at our own treatment plant to increase the production level at the Monroe plant, in addition to another water source that we acquired recently. So, all of that's in play right now, but that doesn't preclude some future conversation about additional capacity coming from the Catawba.
Council, any comments, questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I have one additional question, maybe to our staff. The initial projections that Manager Watson had mentioned regarding, cost and rates, has that been shared with our staff at this point? Do we have any initial projection as far as the numbers are concerned?
No, I don't think we talked about numbers. We have our own, very same estimates on our own side, obviously, and we programmed potentially in our budget to be able to cover at least some cost if we were to actually contract for some additional flow. That number may not be correct, but we did program some money in the budget in case we were to do that. We anticipated that it would be a $100+ million project. With 3 million gallons, you're not going to get by for less than that, in my opinion.
So right now in our projections, you know, in the early part of the engineering, the estimates are all over the place. And we've done the best that we can do right now to project for the rate modeling that we just completed. But as the days go by and more of the engineering and design work gets completed, then those numbers start firming up until you get to August the 1st and we open the bid documents and find out what the real number is.
Are y'all doing a, scene at risk or design build, or what's your process for the construction on
Traditional design.
it? Traditional design, build, okay, just curious. Those are all the questions I have. My main concern was, or just question was, how are you interpreting the, expansion versus a new plant? Were you intended on operating the new plant? Those are all great things to hear. Obviously, our board will have to discuss this and give us some direction on that. But I think that, we've come a long way. I'm comfortable in having that conversation with the board and making a recommendation and then getting their input from that, or their direction, I'm sorry.
And so with that being said, we'll take all this information, anything that you want to share here tonight, or we'll take it to our board retreat on February 12th. And that way, staff can give us, their recommendations, what they're projecting our future needs are, and then we can come back to you after we've had a chance to sit down with staff and get that presentation.
And likewise, if there's anything else that you guys need, any other questions that you have, please feel free, reach out to us, let us know. That way we can continue to keep communication open. Okay. Any other closing comments? County Commissioners, thank you so much for your time today. Staff, every one of you guys that are here, that set this up, order dinner. Everyone who's here listening as well, thank you for your time today. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second. I have a motion, second. Those in favor?
This concludes this special joint meeting with Monroe City, their board. I move that the board adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Good evening.
Thank you.